What's going on? Bring out podcast up in here. I go by the name of Papa Jr. Top 10 dumbest TNA wrestling gimmicks. This video is by Stunned by Wrestling or Stunned by Wrestler, something like that. I'll put the link in the description of the video so y'all can check them out uninterrupted. All that good stuff, full video and other content from this guy's channel, this person's channel, this team's channel, whoever channel is this. Giving you the credit because y'all deserve it, man. Putting in this type of content, man. I'm interested. Top 10 dumbest gimmicks in TNA. What comes to mind? I saw Manic in the fucking thumbnail of this video. Let me say this. I did watch TNA back in the day. You know, Beer Money, AJ Styles, Perk Angle, Samoa Joe, fucking when Booker T was there, the Hulk Hogan, the Dixie Carter, the EC3, the Aces and Eights, the Abyss days, fucking what is that circus fucking stable with Crazy Steve, some shit like that. That group. What else am I missing? Who else? Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian was there, Nick Saban or whatever, Alex Shelley, of course. Anyways, intro has been long enough. Let's see what's up with this top 10 list, man. Let's get it. Stunned by Wrestling. There you go. Shout out to y'all.
TNA has had a lot of interesting
Ric
ideas
Flair as well,
over
yep.
its 23 years
Shark
of
Boy.
existence, and not all of them were
No.
good. Let's take a look at the 10 worst gimmicks in TNA history.
I didn't watch it back then as in 02. I take that back. In my previous video on WCPW, I said I never knew there was outside of wrestling, outside of WWE. I didn't know there was other wrestling. I take it back. TNA I did watch TNA. I didn't know about the indies and stuff like that. So I take back what I said on my previous video. If y'all haven't checked that out, then, you know, y'all wouldn't get it. But, yeah, I want to, correct that real quick. I did watch TNA. It was like the 08, 07, 09 days. Stuff like that. Sting,
TNA
Joker
was
Sting,
just getting started
Christian
in
Cage.
2002, and somehow this was one of the first ideas they had. The Johnsons were
what's his name? Willow. That was Jeff Hardy's.
two massive wrestlers covered head to toe in rose-coloured bodysuits, meant to look just like, well, Johnsons. This was, of course, straight from the mind of Vince Russo, who named these two Dick and Rod. They were actually the Shane twins, who'd go on to WWE, where they were known as the Gemini. But here in 2002, they were made to look like total dickheads.
They are
TNA dropped them
fat,
almost immediately, but you've got to feel sorry for the fans who paid $9.99 to watch two grown men dressed as giant penises. Dustin Rhodes is no stranger to terrible gimmicks. In WCW, he was 7, a weirdo who liked to stare at kids while they were asleep.
And he accepted it. He accepted to fucking do this.
Somehow,
you fucking creep. You were Goldust back in the day, and then you agreed to do this gimmick, fucking staring at kids while they were asleep. You a weird motherfucker, man.
TNA tried to compete with that nonsense in 2007 with Black Rain. Black Rain was supposed to be Dustin's deepest, darkest self, a twisted alter ego consumed by violence and chaos.
I see why he don't drink anymore. Look all that weight he had. I see why he's sober now. Because back then, you want some shit, bro.
In reality, it meant he wore a half-black, half-silver mask and carried around a pet rat named Misty. But instead of being creepy, this was just embarrassing. His matches were slow and sloppy, and the whole thing looked like he'd just been rejected from a bad 80s horror movie. His promos were bizarre, his feud with Abyss went nowhere, and Misty the Rat...
Why that reminded me of the fucking shit that Eric Rowan had, that cage. And it turned out to be a huge fucking disappointment.
Ended up being the most interesting thing about him. Dustin's had some legendary moments in his career, but this was not one of them. When Orlando Jordan arrived in TNA, they decided that his defining trait would be his sexuality, and it turned out to be one of the most cringeworthy gimmicks in wrestling history. He made his debut descending from the ceiling, wrapped in caution tape, and his entrances often involved crawling to the ring while pouring lotion all over himself. Considering that Orlando had been part of
Yeah, I wasn't watching at this time. I remember last time I saw Orlando Jordan, he was US champion and part of fucking JBL's little fucking faction stable, whatever you want to call it. That was the last time I saw Orlando Jordan. What the fuck?
JBL's cabinet.
There
This
you go.
character couldn't have been any further away from that. Of course, all of this was just for shock value to try and get him over as a heel, but it never went anywhere. Despite being a total freak show,
no.
the fans ended up not caring about this real quick, despite the gimmick making Orlando look like a sexual predator. It's
You can't bring that type of shit to no. That shit's not appealing. It's just uncomfortable to watch. Listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all. If y'all play for the other side, yo, I'm happy for you, man. Seriously. But don't bring that shit to TV. Wrestling to wrestling, man. Nobody's interested. Seriously. Oh, but Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream never went to that fucking length. Hell no. He did his talking and he did his wrestling. That's it. This guy took it to a whole nother level. And it didn't fucking work. I had no idea that was a thing. You be happy with who you are. If you're happy being if you're happy, that's all that matters. Good for you. I'm happy for you as well. But this is not going to work. That is not going to work. I'm sorry.
crazy to think.
Like, I like how Anthony Bowens is. He's like, he told us on national television that he's gay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But he don't go out there and doing shit like that what Orlando just did. That is fucking straight up creepy and embarrassing.
Think how popular Shark Boy was. He was a skinny looking dude in a mask, pretending to be a shark, but the fans really enjoyed his work. It was already a pretty weird gimmick, but in 2008, it got even weirder. Out of nowhere, he started talking like Stone Cold, dressing like Stone Cold, and even chugging clam juice instead of beer. Austin's catchphrase got the aquatic treatment too, swapping hell yeah for shell yeah. At first it was kind of funny, but TNA ran it into the ground. What started as a quick joke became a full-time gimmick, and it stopped being funny after about a week. It just got really, really lame as he wrestled entire matches in full Stone Cold mode. Steve Austin might be the toughest SOB in wrestling, but even he couldn't cover up the fishy smell of this dumb gimmick. In 2005, TNA hyped up the arrival of a massive, unstoppable force. The voiceover said that he was a soul that had the power to shatter illusions and create new worlds. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Triton came to the ring in sunglasses and his music sounded a bit like the Terminator soundtrack. He was basically a bargain basement Arnold Schwarzenegger. TNA wanted fans to think he was some kind of unstoppable sci-fi soldier, but
you sci-fi fucking gimmicks, man. I'm sorry, that shit don't work. With me, it don't work. I've always found it cringy. Those that be like this, that shit done, bro. That was the 90s and the fucking 80s, bro. That shit don't work over here, cuz. That shit, the creepiness and all that, it worked with Bray Wyatt. He was the one that did it fucking better than anybody. Nowadays, not even the Wyatt Six could fucking do it. I don't even think that's their fucking fault. It's the fucking booking. Where the fuck they at? I don't fucking know. But gimmicks like this and the fuck off with that shit. What's that tag team from Ring of Honor? The Righteous. That shit don't work, bro.
The moment he actually stepped into the ring, the illusion was shattered. In my opinion, Triton wasn't a great wrestler, and he didn't have a great deal of charisma either.
They just saw him that he's big and buff, and that's it. He has a great look.
Presumably back into the future. AJ Styles is one of the most gifted wrestlers of his generation, so obviously TNA decided to take away everything that made him special and turn him into a second-rate Ric Flair impersonator. When
Because he's from the South too?
Rick arrived in TNA, he took AJ
Oh,
under his wing
hell no.
and convinced
I didn't know
him
that was
to
a thing.
adopt the Nature Boy lifestyle. That meant wearing expensive suits, strutting to the ring, shouting woo every 5 seconds, and cutting promos that just didn't suit him. All of this felt completely unnatural for AJ. Look, Ric Flair is one of a kind. His wrestling persona is pretty much who he is, so it's not really a gimmick. So it's ridiculous to expect anyone to step into his shoes, especially not AJ Styles, who'd been really successful as himself for many years. At this time in 2010, AJ should have been the face of TNA, but instead he was reduced to being a cosplay version of the Nature Boy. TNA took a fictional wrestler from their Impact video game and brought him to life in 2008.
Suicide. But they named him Manic though.
One of the worst branded gimmicks in wrestling history. And from day one, the name Suicide was a PR nightmare because TNA couldn't market him properly. They made thousands of Suicide action figures, but nobody would sell them in their stores because of the name. And it didn't help that his favourite pose was the finger guns to the head. He was played by both Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian at different points, so he was a good wrestler, but the quality of wrestling wasn't the problem. So it was a classic case of TNA acting before putting their brains into gear. Bringing a video game character to life was actually a really fun idea, but naming him the way they did was a guaranteed game over situation for Suicide.
That was just stupid.
We're going all the way back to the very...
You see why I said Manic first? Suicide never came to my fucking mind because Suicide was a stupid ass name.
First match in TNA history for this one. The opening show started with wrestlers dressed as Elvis impersonators. The Flying Elvises were a talented trio of cruiserweights made up of Sonny Siaki, George Estrada and Jimmy Yang, all forced to wrestle in full Elvis jumpsuits. All of these men deserved far better than to be lumbered with this absolute nonsense. And this wasn't a one-off joke. TNA actually pushed them as a legit faction for about 5 months.
What's this, Russo?
The first ever
Russo,
TNA
I swear,
show,
man.
And the first thing you see is 3 guys pretending to be Elvis. No wonder nobody took this company seriously for the first 2 years of its existence. Daphne was a talented and charismatic performer, so naturally they decided to make...
I don't know a lot about her, but R.I.P., man.
...her pretend to be Sarah Palin for months on end. The governor was a parody of former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin. Daphne dressed in a business suit, glasses, and did a fake Alaskan accent as she tried to trick the beautiful people into thinking that she was the real governor of a...
Why does Billy Gunn loves to do these flamboyant type of shit, bro? He was doing it in DX. He was doing a lot of fucking weird shit in DX too, man. Humping fucking guys and shit. Did it with the fucking scissor boys, man. Scissoring niggas. Dude, low key a freak, man.
Alaska. The real Sarah Palin's relevance in
He's an Ash man. Calls you a freak.
pop culture ended pretty quickly, but TNA kept the gimmick going for months. It all led to a big reveal where, shockingly, it turned out that she wasn't actually Sarah Palin. TNA thought this was fantastic television, obviously. Eventually, TNA allowed Daphne to do what she did best and be a sexy zombie chick instead. Before he became a respected world champion and the general manager of SmackDown,
Magnus.
Nick Aldis was saddled with a gladiator gimmick straight out of a low-budget action movie.
Gosh.
Enter Brutus Magnus, a man dressed like he'd wandered off the set of
I don't remember this attire.
nearly a decade too late. TNA pushed him as a serious competitor, but it was difficult to take him seriously when he walked to the ring dressed like this. And he looked really embarrassed every time he was cutting a promo, but at least they let him take the mask off when he was in the ring. He looked ridiculous, but thankfully he was repackaged into a generic British
I remember
heel
this
after
one.
a couple of months. Anything
This is
was
the
going
Magnus
to be
I remember.
better than this.
Oh gosh. Damn, man. Like better in TNA. Joker's thing was just crazy. I enjoyed watching Joker's thing, man. Do have fucking charisma to the whoop. Just seriously, man. I loved it. But these 10 gimmicks that we fucking watch, holy crap.